All right, here's our workout for today. We're going to start with kind of a new exercise that's going to get the shoulders and the core fired up. And what I would recommend doing for this one, so that you can get the right resistance with the right range of motion, is looping your band through and then tying it off. We've done before so that you have this big long loop to work with. What you need to do is get it anchored nice and low. And you're going to lie down with your head pointed at the anchor. And we've got this nice loop here that we can work with. It's going to give us good range of motion. Now, there are 3 different ways you can do this exercise, increasing level of difficulty. The first is going to be just laying flat on your back, feet on the ground, shoulders on the ground. What we're going to do is we're going to take our hands from straight reached out overhead, and I want to pull them all the way down to the waist. Now, if you want to increase your difficulty level a little bit, get the core engaged a little bit more, we can lift our legs, lower our body, our legs off the ground, do a leg raise, just a couple of inches off the ground. It's going to force you to brace a little bit more, and get your core a little bit more involved as you pull that same motion down. Now, the next level is going to be to go into a full hollow body. So I've got my shoulders off the ground, I got my legs off the ground. I'm really having to squeeze tight, keep my body from pulling with the bands. I'm going to go from straight overhead all the way down to my waist. All right, we're going to do a set of those. That is the first exercise in the first flight. And we got an oldie but goodie for the next exercise. Why don't you back up a little bit? And get into our plank. We're going to do our plank up downs, where we're going to go from our raised plank down to our elbow. We're trying to keep the hips from wobbling around too much. Remember to take turns lowering and raising on the right and left. You don't want to do just one way, because then you're going to be walking around with crooked triceps, one bigger than the other. Everybody's going to wonder why you always use one hand to do everything. All right, for our next exercise, again, we got stability with the shoulders. We're going to get the core engaged. We're going to do our bear taps. Now remember, bear position, knees directly below hips, wrists directly below shoulders. We're going to go ahead and get engaged by pressing our toes into the ground, lift the knees up off the ground. And for our bear taps, come over here, baby doll. For our bear taps, what I want us to do is slowly and under control and without too much of the hip sway, we're going to take turns tapping. And what you'll find is that each time you put your hands down, before you lift them up again, you really need to squeeze in the midsection, keep from wobbling one way or the other. So you go hands, elbows, shoulders or the side of your head, chest or hips, and then slap your thighs. Let's try to get through a few rounds of those. Our next exercise, also on the ground. If you have the mini bands, you can use those for this, or you can use part of the heavy duty bands, the bigger bands, based on the resistance that you want. We're going to do some Supermans with some face pulls. Now, the Supermans we've done before. Obviously, our hands are out in front, our feet are behind. We're going to squeeze at the shoulders. Ooh, there's a root right under me. We're going to squeeze at the shoulders. We're going to squeeze our butt, and we're going to lift up into like a reverse hollow body. The knees and the feet are off the ground, the shoulders, the upper chest, and the arms are off the ground. This is a slow motion, all right? We're not going to bounce. What we are going to do is we are going to add a face pull. So what I want us to do is get the right amount of band. We're going to bring it right here in front of our face. And as we lift up, we're going to pull it apart. So we're really squeezing those shoulder blades together, pushing the elbows out. Be about a 4-second hold. So we're going to go up. We're going to pull it apart. We're going to hold that. We're still pulling. We're not just holding it there, pulling. About 3 or 4 seconds. Relax and come back down. Try to get through maybe 8 to 10 of those at 4 seconds a piece. Let's see. That is our 4 exercises in the first flight. We have our lying hollow body, overhead pull. Remember, there are 3 different difficulty levels. We got our plank, up, down. It's going to fire the triceps up, keep the core on top. And we got our bear taps, working on the shoulder stabilization. Remember to squeeze your core each time before you lift a hand up. Squeeze your core nice and tight. Keeps your hips from swaying back and forth. And then we've got our Supermans with the face pulls. Remember, slow. Raise at the shoulders, raise by squeezing your butt and lower back, and then pull the band apart. Now for the next flight, we are going to need a higher anchor so we can get rid of our towel. Ideally, you would have an anchor that is up overhead. This one is a little bit lower down on the tree, and I don't feel like moving it right now. So we're going to use it the way it is. Go ahead and just use the yellow band for what we're going to do. Our first exercise is going to be real simple. We're going to do a tricep press down. Now these are a little bit too low, so I'm going to go ahead and grab them up here. I want to show you 2 different grips for the tricep press down. The one would be a neutral. My palms are facing one another right in front of me. I'm going to press down and try to put these things in my pocket right here behind my hips. Slow raise, lower under control. The chest stays forward. We're not bending over to press down. Chest stays forward. Squeeze the belly. Another grip that I want to show you, if you have your anchor up a little higher, what you can do is do a reverse or underhand grip where your palms are facing upward. It's still going to be the same exercise, but it's going to hit the triceps a little differently. So you might try both grips as you go through this flight 3 times. Our second exercise in the second flight is going to be a kneeling crunch. You could do this standing, but I do prefer to do this kneeling. It takes away a little bit of your stability, really forces you to focus on squeezing your core. One of the things I always like to point out when we are doing a crunch, we're not bending over, we're not trying to get our hips down to our shoulders. What we're really trying to do is shorten the distance between the rib cage and the pelvis. So that's where you want to feel the squeeze. I'm going to grab my bands overhead, get them nice and tight, and then I'm just going to squeeze down. I'm shortening the distance from my rib cage to my pelvis, really focusing on squeezing the abdominals down. This is not a huge range of motion. Nobody's going to be wowed by how far you can do this, but it's how hard you are squeezing your belly that's going to determine how much work is getting done on strengthening up that abdominal wall. The next exercise is kind of fun. If you have a mirror, be a great time to do your exercise in front of a mirror. Again, 2 ways to do this. We're going to do a horizontal bicep curl. So if you want to go single arm, what you'll do is turn sideways to your anchor. I'm over here. Sideways to your anchor. Get in front of your mirror if you really want to see the bicep pop out. And what I want you to do is squeeze the bicep this way. We're having to engage the obliques. Keep from turning sideways, leaning sideways. I want to stay straight up and down as I curl this weight straight in, like I'm trying to tickle my own ear, and keeping that elbow pointed straight out. Another way that we can do this, if you want to do this 2 arms at a time, and again, go ahead and switch it up. Use them both. I've still got the elbows right out in front of me at shoulder height, and I'm going to squeeze biceps this way. Again, trying to put my hands right behind my ears, trying to keep those upper arms still, only hinging at the elbows. And now the 4th exercise in our second flight, going to be some fly downs. Again, I wish this were a little bit taller, but I didn't feel like untying it from the tree and moving it. So I'm going to go down into this tall kneeling position. Also not a terrible idea. I want these things untangled. There we go. And behind my head. And what I want to do is I want to reach out nice and wide. And I want to pull straight down, keeping straight arms. Grip your bands. Try to squeeze your elbows in front of your body. I'm going to move forward just a little bit. Sometimes that's the trick with the bands. Got to find that right position the first rep or 2. Now I've got them behind me. I want to squeeze those elbows. I turn the palms outward a little bit so that I can lead with the elbows through the center, really getting a good squeeze in the pecs up here and pulling down a little bit with the lats. So we're pulling down and we're squeezing out front, lead with the elbows towards the middle. So let's go through it again one more time. In the first flight, we did our lying hollow body pullover. Remember, there are 3 levels of difficulty. You can have your feet on the ground, shoulders on the ground. You can raise up your feet, that'll make it a little tougher. You can try to go into a full hollow body position and pull it over, and that's gonna really step the difficulty up. The next one, we flipped over and we went from a raised to a lowered plank. Remember to alternate your arms as you go up and down. Keep yourself balanced. Really keep the core engaged so the hips don't sway side to side. The next one was the bear taps. Again, shoulder stability. And go nice and slow and controlled. Squeeze the core, keep it tight. We don't want those hips going side to side. Once it happens, you'll feel it. Once you feel it, you can start to focus on it. And then you can start to figure out how to squeeze your core to stop it from happening. The next one was a Superman, so we flip over onto our bellies. We're gonna raise up the shoulders, raise up the lower body, and we're squeezing, pulling that band apart, really squeezing the shoulder blades together. That is the first flight. Go through that 3 times. For the second flight of exercises, we needed a higher anchor. Overhead is best. If you can't get it overhead, do what I did and go from the tall kneeling position. It's going to be harder that way. Anyways, the first exercise, what was the first exercise? The first exercise was just a straight tricep press. Remember, we had 2 grips, either palms facing one another or palms facing straight up. I recommend trying both of them. If I go down to the tall kneeling position, this is how it's going to look. This is that reverse or underhand grip. My palms are straight up and I'm going to pull it straight down. You'll hear people refer to this as a reverse curl. The other way that I can do it is by gripping this way, keeping the palms in this neutral grip, palms are faced, and again, squeezing down, trying to keep the upper arms from moving, only hinging at the elbows. The next exercise out of this was the tall kneeling crunch or a standing crunch. We're going to hold these overhead. Remember, not a huge range of motion. We're squeezing at the belly, trying to shorten the distance from the rib cage to the pelvis. Really try to feel all of this motion right here. Third exercise, we stood up. This is the in front of the mirror. This is the gun show. You're going to go ahead and get horizontal like this. This was the one way we could do it. We're going to feel this on our obliques. Obviously, we're going to do it with the other side as well. If you want to do it with both arms at the same time, or if you just want to switch it up, we can do the same thing. Again, the elbows are right out there at shoulder level. I'm going to try to keep those upper arms from moving at all and hinge backwards. And the fourth exercise in this flight was the fly, the downward fly, where we're going to get our lats involved as we're pulling down, and we're going to get our pecs involved as we're squeezing forward. We want to be in front of the anchor a little bit. Should not be too much trouble if you have it anchored in a door. You don't have a choice. Arms are straight out. We're going to pull it down and squeeze and lead with the elbows in front. The palms turn out so that you can squeeze with the elbows. If you do them one arm at a time, you really feel that pull up here in the upper pectoral. So there are your 4 exercises per flight, 2 flights. Go through each of them 3 times. Have fun with it.